Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Big Stompy podcast. Tonight, you've got James Salyers, Ross Hines, and Todd Farnholtz in here to talk about a little bit of everything. We're going to discuss some virtual CavCon stuff. We're going to talk about our hobby progress. We're going to uh, visit some ideas that Todd has about optional audibling out of a list, and then at the end we're gonna take a look at a rock model that I think deserves a little bit of attention. Honestly, I wasn't aware of it until Ross pointed it out. It's pretty freaking cool. And then there at the very end, we're going to let Ross make us all super jealous when he talks about his Heinz and other assorted sundry models. How you doing?
I'm tired, to be honest, but I'm doing all right.
Well, sorry you're tired. Glad
I
you're
mean,
good.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, no, it's this week has been very when we get to the modeling part, I'll elaborate more. But needless to say, I think everyone's dropped the ball a little bit on their virtual stuff. So it's I'm on spring break, but I wouldn't know it right now. So
Busy. Todd, how's it out in
So-
California?
It is gorgeous. It might as well be spring right now. It was like 75 today. And but yeah, the weather's nice, but life's a little hectic right now, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah. Turns out this apparently it's going around sort of like the flu a little bit, where we've all managed to catch the busies. So as you all may know, virtual CavCon is right around the corner, and Todd and Ross and Hugh and myself all a few months ago, a month or so ago, made this commitment that we were going to like put together these lists and paint them up and talk about them and get them all assembled, just like we were getting ready to go to a physical convention. Um, and I know we've all been in the batter's box swinging away at these pitches that life is throwing at us. But personally, I've been struggling a little bit. Some of you um, may have heard the word yellow. If you participate in any of my activities online, you've heard that I've been painting yellow a little bit, and man, this has been a struggle.
Expletive.
Yeah, seriously. And part of it is really my own fault, right? So about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, somewhere in there, I had these models painted up yellow, ready for the final details. Like a little edge highlighting, pick out the treads, the missile tips, that sort of stuff, right? And then I got it in my head that I needed to put some purple on these Malvernus models. So I thought about it, and I came up with a plan, and I got out my paintbrush, I painted some white, and then which actually looked pretty good, to be honest with you. I probably should have stopped there. But I painted the white so I could get like a brighter color purple on my models. And I got it on there, and I got them all purpled up. And I looked at them one day and I was like, oh, this is terrible. And so I undid it all. I basically spent 2 weeks going from yellow painted models back around to yellow painted models, which has really put me on the back foot in terms of getting my stuff done. I'm leaving for virtual CavCon Wednesday of next week, which is a funny thing to say. I'm leaving for a virtual thing, but I'm going to physically be there. And man, I have got a ton of stuff to do. I've got the yellow army painted except for basing, so I've only got to flock and seal my models, and the Malvernus force is done. But for whatever crazy reason, I decided I was going to not only make up a new game, Cav Ball, I was going to paint up 12 calves for it and 8 pieces of terrain. So I've got a week left to get all that done. One thinks maybe you should more realistically estimate the amount of time that you have available to do these things. I honestly think I would have been perfectly fine if I hadn't gone around in that big yellow circle. But cross my fingers, I think I can still pull this off. I've got half the terrain half painted, and I've got the models taped up and ready to be airbrushed, and I'm going to leverage the airbrush really heavily here. I think I can do this. And so my idea is I wanted to share how I was able to like recover from this sort of mistake that I made. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure this is something available to the rest of you, but I got to I get to leverage the fact there's another hobbyist in my house. So my wife turns out is actually a pretty decent painter. She doesn't do it very often, but when she puts her mind to it, she can paint quite a bit. She's got her own supplies, her own paint stuff, her own airbrush. She's not bad. And so I was able to cash in some brownie points and get her to help me with some of the preparation on some of these models. And that's the only reason I've been able to keep my head above water. And so I think the lesson that I've learned is this is probably outside of just trying to do my hobby stuff. When you find yourself struggling, reach out to those around you. I mean, ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. And that's a lesson that was not true for my generation. I'm kind of an old guy, and when I was brought up, I was taught do it yourself or don't do it. But I was blessed. I have a wife. She's a wonderful woman. She helped me out. I think I'm gonna make it. Cross my fingers. All right, so that's it. Todd, you got anything you want to share about your hobby woes?
Oh man. Yeah. Well, so the original plan was to do my black TriStars, my Ritterlich Force. Um, had all the models prepped, primed, masked off with putty. I was doing the airbrushing. Originally didn't really like the amount of contrast I was getting between the black and the gray on the camo striping, and thought maybe I can just bring it out with highlights. It was taking way too long. I think I got halfway through one attack section, and then my mom and dad decided they were going to sell their house. And well, I'm a building engineer, and so guess who gets called to come change light fixtures and help with all that kind of stuff. So yeah, my free time went to zero. And so yeah, Ritterlich are not going to be making a appearance, at least as my force this year, unfortunately.
Ross, how about you? How's your stuff going?
Oh man. So I got about half of them done. The last time we talked, I was just finishing up like the final details on the Rhino and Cataphract, and I said, or well, whatever the Almathrill variants are. I don't know, Hammer and Havoc. Anyway, um, and so I'm feeling pretty good. Other than the fact I don't have the other 6 models because John was very gracious and said that he would print them off for me. And so I was kind of waiting on that, and he was getting the files for the Hind set up, and they can get everything. You don't just, contrary to popular belief, opinion, whatever, you don't just walk up to your 3D printer, hit the print button and walk away, and it just comes out perfect. And so I was kind of stuck in limbo, waiting. I prepped some other figures, and right around that time, and this was right before in Texas, they had, and I guess the rest of the nation, they've had a big push to get educators vaccinated for COVID. And so the week before that, or 2 weeks before that, I forget, like February 25th, 7th, somewhere in that range, my wife just said, no, we're going to get this done. And so she found a CVS. We drove out to Paris, Texas, and got our first dose. And so, of course, they scheduled me for the return dose. The only time they could schedule me was Saturday, March 27th. Well, that's kind of difficult to do if I'm up in Kansas. So that, is kind of just pretty much put a fork in that. And so I could give up, but no, you know what? I'm like, no, I'm going to still have a full 12-unit force to go to share pictures or video or whatever, and to highlight these dudes. And so John sends me out the figures, and I get them last week, like on Friday, and I bust them open. They're still on the support. They're this wonderful, beautiful ebony black resin. It's amazing. It looks great. I mean, it almost looks like they're primed. And so I hustled through the night and into the Saturday morning and got them all assembled, cleaned, everything ready to go. I got the spray primer. I sprayed them all up. They're sitting here light gray. And I'm like, okay, Sunday, I'm gonna start laying down base coats, and I can get this done. I've done this before. One of my Capcom forces, my Ritter force, from the 2018, I got like 5 models done in 1 week while I was at school, and I'm like, I've got spring break this week, and then I've got a week of school next week. Still gonna get these pumped out. This won't be a problem. Well, so Sunday afternoon, my one of my nephews comes bursting into our house. They live about 300 yards away on the same 30-acre plot. He comes busting in the house. He's eight-ish, 8.5, and he's just wailing. And our house is burning. Our house is burning. And my first thought was, kids, you're exaggerating. But I saw his face. I'm like, no, he's not. And so I took off running, went out the house. As I go out, I see the other four kids coming up the driveway, running and crying and screaming, and a huge black plume of smoke, going in the air. So I race over to their house and proceed to spend the rest of my Sunday over there helping them. First, just comforting while the fire just consumes, about completely burned half the house to the ground and then ruined the other half. By the time that we sifted through it, I'd say we salvaged about 0.5% of their belongings. And at that 0.5, probably over half of that is probably ruined. It'll have to be pitched. I don't know. But we pulled out what we could. And so then the next 3 or 4 days, I was helping them sift through the rubble to do that. And then we've been helping watch their kids. And it's honestly, I haven't touched a brush since last Friday or last Thursday. We've just been busy helping family and doing stuff like that. And so it's just not been conducive to sit down and, do. I mean, I'm sitting here staring at the forest right now as I talk, and it looks great. Like I can see where it's going. I've got 6 figures that are half orange, half olive drab. I've got, 2 beautiful hinds, 3 beautiful hounds, and then a really great Kodiak just sitting here saying, paint me, paint me, paint me. And I'm just sitting here going, when,
Yeah.
Even today, like today was kind of like a slow day. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get a chance. And my wife's like, well, we need to go to this. We need to help them go do this. Oh, can you go do this? Oh, can you go pick this up for them? And I'm like, okay, cool. And now it's like, oh, time to get on for Big Stompy. Yeah, my day's gone. What happened? So yeah, I mean, it's been an experience, that's for sure. And unfortunately, I think the first thing in our lives that we cut is our hobby.
Mm.
Unless John was, walking up saying he's going to pay me a couple thousand for this force, which he's not. It's no big deal. I understand. But it's like there's, you go, okay, what can I cut in life that there's zero incentive to work for right now? And unfortunately, getting this force painted up is it. But since I am where I am, it will be done at some point, hopefully soon. But it's just, the reality is I'll probably be able to get at least one hound and one hind and the Kodiak done just for show and tell. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Cross our fingers. Ross,
Yes.
wow. Obviously, I'm sure everybody's, thoughts and, like prayers go out to you and, your family, and hope that you guys can recover from this. And in a year, you'll look back and it was just like a blip on the radar, hopefully. Thank goodness it doesn't seem
Oh,
like
yes.
anybody was hurt.
No one was hurt. We did lose a couple pets.
Mm.
There's kind of some morbid hamster stories, and we found the cat on the second day, and that wasn't fun. But
Yeah.
I helped my brother-in-law bury it, and so you have to keep on plugging.
Man, that's rough. Hey, Hobby Habit, glad to see you join us, Colonel Kane. We're going to talk about Todd, what Todd is playing or bringing or whatever it is he's doing here in just a minute. That's on our list. And you're right, Ilmarin, from earlier. Definitely for both Todd and Ross. Absolutely, family comes first. Even really, my story, family comes first. I got help from my family. You guys are helping your families. I mean, it's important. I mean, that's super important that people take care of each other. It's like little ripples
Yep.
in a pond. People do the right things, those ripples grow, they become bigger. Nobody wants to hear me preach. All right, so well, maybe one person, but that's me. Todd, to answer Colonel Kane's question, let's talk about where you're going. I mean, so you decided you couldn't bring this force that you had planned um, to completion in time. Tell us what your audible was. How did you handle that?
Well, I'll tell you, to kind of expand off of what I had said before, with time being a crunch, I thought, well, I've got a bunch of those GW contrast paints. Maybe I can knock out an alternate scheme that I'm really familiar with doing pretty quick rather than relying on my airbrush. And I came to find out that contrast really doesn't save you that much time when you take into account drying time and having to plan out what colors you're going to lay down in what order and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the time just wasn't there for me. So what I opted to do was see if, from the last couple of CavCons, I have 3 5,000 point forces. And what just late last year, John dropped that file with all those new alternate models. Well, not alternate models, but variants for the existing models. And so I thought, well, maybe I can rework my existing forces that I have painted and everything, and ready to go, rework them into a playable force for virtual CavCon. And so I was actually able to successfully do it to limited degrees of, I don't know, I don't want to call it competitiveness, but to limited degrees of actually being a list that someone would want to field for both my Crimson Thunder Merc list and my Malvernus 19th Righteous Fire list. So yeah, I've got both of those, and James and I, you were talking about it. I will be in attendance there at Virtual CavCon, so I guess it won't be virtual for me. So yeah, I'll be bringing both of those with the list printed out, and they're really not all that different than how I had originally built them. I think the Malvernus list is definitely going to be the stronger of the two. But I've always been one that likes to play lists that aren't necessarily min-max. They have a little bit of a quirk to them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that and finally being able to roll dice again after 2 years.
Yeah, me too. That's something it's going to be a lot of fun. Wait, so what was it that finally clicked in your head and said, I've got to pull an audible here? It's like I've tried to push through this. Now it's time to just change my path. What was it that finally made you make that decision?
So it was actually a conversation Ross and I had. We were both talking about how much we like the Malvernus White. The heavy cav. It's basically like a heavy recon cav, but it's an attack cav. Well, John came out with a White A, which basically drops the rocket launchers and upguns the max. So I think the max gains piercing.
That was mine.
What's that?
I mean, I designed the base of that, and he did a couple changes, but that was originally my idea back in when we were doing that design thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Random. No, it's John's design, but I gave the template. And he kind of said, that's dumb," and took it off or switched something. I can't remember what it was. Sorry.
Yeah. But I was looking at that, and for whatever reason, I really like the Reaver, which I happened to just have done a kit bash of and then painted it up in the 19th Regiment's colors. And so I thought, well, I know I have a Reaver model. Haven't ever played with it. I just like the design. And I've got 2 whites painted, 2 assassins, 5 razors, 2 shadows. So I've got a good pool of stuff to pull from here. And then I realized the razor has 2 variants. It has an attack and a recon variant.
Yes, it does.
The white has 2 variants. The assassin doesn't, but then I've got the alternate Reaver. And sure enough, I was able to put a 3-section 4,500 point. Well, I think it's 43 points shy or something like that of 4,500 points. And it's actually on paper, it looks pretty good. It's real high speed, like the Malvernus Force is intended to be. And the nice thing is it can actually really deal with aircraft.
Nice. So did you end up with the white? I can't recall if you said you ended up with the white variant in your list or not.
Yeah, the new list has 2 of the White A's, which are the ones that drop the rocket launchers and upgun the max. And I'm sure some of the SAs kind of change around a little bit. It might have gotten a little slower than the original white. But yeah.
I think it's faster.
Is it faster? I've got the program. I can pull it up.
So the models you're going to use are original whites. You're just going to proxy them. I'm assuming you didn't do any modifications.
Yeah, no, they're already painted. They're ready to go. So it's just going to be a proxy situation. But under the CavCon rules, if the model exists, you can use it. So it's just it's a painted white, but you just have to ignore the rocket launcher.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I was just curious. I couldn't recall if you'd said you had built the White A or not.
No, I had built a Reaver out of spare bits. An assassin body, white legs, and I think some Vanquisher arms from the rock model.
It's speed 11, armor 6 now, the white A,
Oh,
and then the max have are pierced and reinforced 2, rugged, ammo bin 1, advanced TC 2, and Wizzo, and it
Ritters.
drops
yeah,
almost 50 points.
yeah. So that's pretty solid. Any way you slice it for me. The
Reinforced
armor
2.
6 a bit, but
Yeah. Well, the original white has reinforced 2 and rugged as well, and so I know when I was designing, I kept that, but sacrificed an ammo bin to up advanced TC to 2. So,
What's what,
or something in that. I forget what John fixed because I was being, min max or whatever. So,
what's the strength of the max on the white A?
it's
that'd
6
be
because
yeah.
they're pierced. Yeah.
Say the number again. I couldn't hear you.
6.
6. Okay. Wow. Good grief. And it's only got 2 of them, right? Left and right.
Yeah, just two. Yeah,
Okay.
one in each
So
arm.
it has double time. It has reinforced 2, and it has 2 max. That thing's a beast.
And rugged.
And rugged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rugged is the one
Yeah.
that lets you fight through criticals, right?
No, yeah. When you do a repair action, you get an automatic success,
Oh,
not a
okay,
critical
okay.
success. So you
Gotcha.
heal 2 basically.
Gotcha. All right.
But
Man.
yeah, with a spotter, if something gets spotted with EST, you've got a +3 right away. I mean,
Mhm.
between advanced TC2 and Wizzo, like that, that's and you got that speed to just maneuver all over the board.
Yeah. I mean, between double time and reinforced, that's kind of a -4 to the damage if you get hit, right? I mean, because it takes away 2 points from your to hit roll, and then reinforced walks you 2 steps down. Maybe only 3. Wouldn't really be 4 points,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's all nice. It's all very nice.
Yeah, I mean, they both go together because you can still take a white with a white A. They still have a similar role. The white, I mean, but it's. I know when I was designing, I was trying to keep the flavor of that design and do something slightly different or whatever. So.
Yeah, it's a sweet model. All right,
Yep.
so you've made an audible. You've chosen some other forces. You said that this force has some decent effectiveness against aircraft. Can you talk about that?
Well, it's got 2 Reavers in it in place of the assassins. Again, I only built 1 Reaver, so I'll be proxying an assassin, which is same number of damage or approximate same number of damage tracks, same size kind of thing. But it's got 4 rotary autocannons, so they have the area of effect. Range isn't great on them, but if they're in Overwatch, they'll be able to. But they hit really hard against soft. Was really the only. They don't have anti-air or anything, but they'll be able to threaten softs.
So you said the word Overwatch just a second ago, and that reminds me of something I'd completely forgotten. So my wife and I have been playtesting this Cadball game, and I'm really here to talk about Cadball. But as part of that, we've been part of the game involves using Overwatch a lot, which I don't really have much experience with. And I was genuinely surprised at how effective Overwatch can be. It's amazing. All right. Now, if I'm wrong, one of you rules gurus correct me, but I think I have this right. When you fire on Overwatch, you apply the damage immediately, like during the middle of the enemy's activation. And so if you hit them down, they fall down in the middle of their activation. And they didn't declare stand up as an action, so they can't stand up. There's all kinds of nasty things that can happen when you apply the damage during the enemy's activation rather than at the end of their activation, which is the standard rule. Overwatch is bonkersly powerful. Comments?
Yeah, you just have it takes some it takes some kind of chess thinking to use it effectively, has been my experience, because ultimately you can be in Overwatch, and if you get flanked, then you're kind of SOL. But yeah, no, it absolutely can be used to, if you have the initiative, say you have a recon squad and you're able to move that card to the bottom of the deck so that you have the ability to move forward, or act first or something, then you set up an Overwatch. You can dictate what points of the board your opponent's going to want to try and get into.
Ross?
So I could see in Cadball how that would be definitely something to be very, very important to know how to do.
Yeah, well, again, not really talking about cab ball, but in cab ball, you know where the enemy's going. They're going to the goal, and so the two turrets that guard the goal stay in Overwatch, and they will mess you up. But you'll find out more about that during CavCon.
I'm excited about that personally.
Cool. I hope it's fun. It's I've played the last time we played my wife kicked my butt. She's actually gotten pretty good at this game. Ross, you want to talk about Overwatch? Do you have any Overwatch observations?
I honestly, it's not something I've really ever used. And I don't know if there's been a rule switch or what. I could have swore, and I could just be thinking of a different effect, that something like Overwatch, you didn't get all the bonuses and stuff, but I may be confusing it with defensive fire. Because there's a reason in the back of my mind that I don't ever consider it much. I can't remember why. And so honestly, I've never used it, and I've only seen it attempted to be used a couple of times, and I just kind of played around it and just ignored it, or just sent a bunch of rockets on that unit, like, here, Overwatch this. And you drop it down. You drop it down a few damage pegs, and you're like, okay, you can shoot me now. Oh no, you didn't do any damage. Okay, next. And so I need to, because we had a bunch of rule switches and moves and whatever back in about this time last year. And we never really got to play test them all fully due to COVID. And so I'm struggling as far as, like, because if you don't get any of your bonuses and stuff, like defensive fire, I for sure don't care for it. Only because, to me, Cav is about stacking those bonuses in to hit harder and to deal with your opponent quicker. And if you're just shooting naked, it's generally not as effective. But I could be wrong, or the rules are different. I just don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I need to educate myself about it and try on the battlefield a few times. Cab ball's weird. It uses Overwatch, but it's probably more powerful in cab ball than it would be in a regular tabletop. But so when my wife and I were playtesting it, and we ran into these questions, I was firing off questions into our group chat with John, making sure that I really understood how to use it, and I was just blown. The ability to apply damage in the middle of an enemy's activation there's some potential there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's going to really work in a standard straight up game, but I'm just saying there's definitely some space there that needs to be explored, because until we were playtesting, I was completely ignorant of how this rule worked. I was kind of like you, Ross, a lesser version, I'm sure, but I mean, I looked at the rule and I was like, why would I ever want to do this? I just want to move and shoot people and stack up bonuses and do the normal cav thing. But man, I'm telling you, if you can punch somebody hard enough in the middle of their turn, bad things happen. I mean, like, you catch them during their movement, and if you can do a couple of points of damage to them, now the strength of their weapon drops down. Maybe they lose double time before they finish their movement. Like I said, if you can knock them down, or heaven forbid, suppress them or anything like that, that all takes effect immediately. I'm telling you, there's not saying it's going to change the game, but it needs to be explored. There's some interesting stuff there. At least I think so.
There is a reason that it costs 2 action points to do it. So I mean, unless you've got some really solid support with EST or something like that from a recon unit, I mean, that Overwatch is what your guy's doing. He's not moving. He's not target locking. Not doing anything. He's just he's in Overwatch. So you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket. So I think that's the trade-off for it.
Don't forget about APA. APA applies to everybody, right?
Well, yeah. Not defensive fire.
Okay, not defensive.
Or like defensive. The defensive fire that I'm saying is that it specifically says that you get no bonuses, and or it's like I don't forget. I need to go look it up and do it better. And that's the one. Like I said, I could be completely wrong, or I've got the two confused, or they split off in the rule tree a while back. I don't know, but that was something that we had talked about, because Smog Chandler, he's like, I'm gonna do that defensive fire on you. You try and kill my guys, and I'm like, and we did it, and we read through the rules, and it was like, why? And I think John had said, well, it's more of a last ditch, like my dude's dying, and so I'm gonna try and at least scratch your paint before I go. And so I always tell Smog, I'm like, yeah, you go ahead and defensive fire, please do that, because you're getting 0 bonuses, and you're just basically, wet noodle slapping. So I mean, I don't know. So
correct me if I'm wrong. I'm wrong, guys, but APA doesn't affect strike point rolls now. Is that correct as well?
No, it does not. Right. It does not.
Yeah, so there's that to consider as well. Just as a side.
Interesting. So for me, it's just I've not played enough Cav games. I mean, every time, I think in my head, Cav. I've done a ton of Cav. I know what Cav is about. I actually get in and crack open the rules and start reading it, and I'm like, what? I didn't. How does this rule work? It's like the first. So not my very first Cav tournament, but my second Cav tournament in 2019. Um, we played, with all the objectives, and I'm sure we did it in the first tournament. It's the first tournament I was so new, I had no idea how to even go about doing things. But those objectives in the cab tournaments are really critical. One of my first impressions about cab was it was really just a like kill the enemy game. There wasn't really a ton of objective play. There weren't really other alternatives for winning. But I had to eat crow on that. After we played that 2019 tournament at the end of it, um, I had to go say to John, I was wrong about you. This tournament has really good objective play. There's just a lot of ways to score points in terms of getting into the enemy deployment zone and tagging the objectives and just, killing the enemy ace. Back then we had aces and whatnot. There's just a lot of points out there to be scored. And so I had to go to John during that convention and tell him I was wrong and he was right. So God, I hope he's not listening. I hate to say that again.
I think he tuned you out.
Yeah, seriously, he's probably got me muted. All right, so we've talked about that. Now we're going to really find out if John is listening, because I think what we're going to do now is we're going to transition over to talking about a unit. We're going to review a particular rock unit. I think it's called the Carl. Is that its name,
The
gentlemen?
Carl.
Okay, Ross, or excuse me, not Ross. I looked up and I saw Ross's picture on the screen. I was like, immediately wanted to talk to Ross. John, if you could, there it is. We've got. Wait a minute. That says. That's interesting. Oh, I see. I see what he's doing. So John's got the Carl up on the screen there for us. I can't read it from where I'm at. So if somebody wants to take a look at that in chat, we're just going to refer to that thing right there. Todd, can you summarize the Carl for us for those of us that are just listening?
Well, if anyone listens last time we did this, the Carl kind of seems like a rock version of a Thunderbolt, just with range this time around. So instead of the 5 autocannons, got the 5 light guided missiles. So you have the salvo ability there. They could really, really ruin someone's day. You got it's fixed wing, so no pop up. Movement 18, armor 4, so it's pretty heavily armored for an aircraft. Again, the 4 light guided missiles. It's got double time, of course, and it has countermeasures. That's super nice. So if someone tries to target lock you, you can potentially say no you, plus Wizzo and tag. So you can pretty much just fly around and launch guided missiles at your heart's content, all for 245 TV. So
seems good. Now
it's pretty scary.
Todd, correct me. I thought I heard you say 4 guided missiles. Does it not have 5?
Did I say 4?
Maybe
I
I
might have
misheard
meant to say
you. But it definitely has 5
light
guided missiles.
5.
Oh my God, that is sweet.
Just 5, yeah, just 5. No big deal, just 5.
All right, so Todd, I mean, you're up at the plate. Tell us what you think about this thing. How you would leverage it. What stands out about it to you? What about this thing amazes you?
It's price, honestly. It's cheap enough to where under 500 TV, you could take a flight of them, and they're gonna fly around and just mess people's day. I mean, those guided missiles with the range that they have, you can't. I mean, unless you're behind hard cover, level 3 crouching or something like that, they're gonna pop you all day long. So what salvo would let you push for a Rav 8 if you salvoed. They got tags, so you don't have to worry about target locking. Yeah, I mean, they're just the price for what they bring to the table is phenomenal. So I mean, no pop up, so you're gonna have to keep them, out and about. Nap of the Earth's gonna be kind of hard to utilize with the Carl, but not impossible. Honestly, you might not even really want to use it considering the range that it has. So yeah, they're going to be pesky little flies that you have to try and swat down.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Again, I'm sorry I'm so bad with the rules. Is there a range limit on tag? I can't recall, but I vaguely remember
36.
there being a range limit, right?
I believe
36?
36. Yeah.
So in some ways, I mean, if you have to rely on tag to fire these things, and obviously without a target lock, that's the only way you can fire them. Um, it kind of cuts the range off on those light guided missiles just a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, it really only restricts you to what I guess just inside of your long range. Well, just outside of your medium range, I should say. But I mean, that's still really nice. I mean, you could pair it. I don't know if the Rock have a recon aircraft yet, but if you really wanted to, you could pair it with a recon craft that could fly around and drop EST if such a thing exists yet.
Hmm.
Um, but even then, at 36 inches, what long range is what 8 up. So um, yeah, I wouldn't really see that being a drawback for it. I mean, and you could spend one action and then spend the other one to. No, I guess you couldn't, unless you wanted to spend a command point or something. The
Hmm.
range on tag I guess, just kind of limit it. But that being said, 36 inches is still 36 inches.
I'd be
You
curious
don't have
to go ahead. Go ahead.
you
Sorry.
don't have to, right. I was just going to say you don't have to get right up in their face like you do with a thunderbolt.
Interesting.
Right.
Ross, what do you think about this
I mean,
beast?
well, if if you were on the Kickstarter, 3, you remember there was some resin aircraft called
Hmm.
crossbows.
Hmm.
And crossbows have 4 light guided missiles and a medium laser bolt gun or whatever. And pretty much they just, I played with them a decent amount in DFW before COVID. And you don't, as you know, I mean, if you're willing to face the return fire, you don't really have to move. You just sit still, target lock, and launch all your missiles. It's very interesting how quickly you can delete recon and light skinned stuff just by throwing dice at them, and that's effectively what you're doing when you're throwing that many shots at something. Target lock.
Hmm.
Okay, how much damage did I do? 2 that one. Okay, well the next one fires. Wait, what? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was just the first one. He just fired 4. Well, if he's Carl, they're firing 5. And if you get
Wow.
something where you're like, I don't think that 4 damage level is enough. Let's just throw a couple big punches, and then we'll finish you off next turn. And they're cheap enough to where you can have quite a few of them, depending on how your force structure is set up. And so, yeah, they're really dangerous. But if you're going to live that way, you also have to accept the fact that, if somebody brings an arbalest or other things with guided missiles, they're going to shoot back at you. And you don't have a lot of armor with either aircraft. I mean, you have 4 with the Carl and I think 3 with the crossbow. And so stuff can really ruin your day. Because you're not moving and they can see you because you can see them.
Hmm.
And they have range if you have range. So it's kind of the game that you play, or it is kind of a paper rock paper scissors sort of thing there. Because almost all the games that I played, nobody really had an antidote. Because they didn't bring any guided missiles, or I took them off the board as quickly as possible, something like that.
Yeah, aircraft are so list design. My favorite thing in list design is to ask questions, right? So I bring a list, it does things, and my question to you is, are you prepared to handle what I'm doing? And so aircraft are they're very good at asking questions. I mean, this thing, it's so fast. That honestly, I think I would like to keep this thing at long range, at the extreme ranges, and play it that way. That's why I was asking that question about tag, because I want to fire this thing at like 48 inches. I want to be taking advantage of the fact that I can salvo into your EST guy, right? So if you've got a squad that's got some ECM unit that I want to get rid of, I think these guys are really good at coming up and just trying to get into a range
Hmm.
band where they can punch them really hard, and you can't. I mean, if you didn't come prepared to answer that question, then there's not a whole lot you can do about it, right? You stay at range. keep it to your advantage. You've got Wizzo. If the shot is hard, you can always salvo, right? You can salvo for a +4. So between just Wizzo and salvo, you're firing it at a +5 on a 4-4. You're going to crack the heck out of a recon guy. You're going to punch him in the nose and make it sting. And so that's what I like about this guy. Now, countermeasures. All right, I understand what it does. I've never actually used it. Do you guys have any experience? Is it valuable? Is it just kind of a once in a blue moon? It might help you. Is it something I can leverage? Talk about countermeasures for a minute.
Countermeasures is
Oh,
nice. Uh, I've used it a number of times. It basically gives you a free roll with the value of the SA for a 10 plus. So in this case, it'd be a 9 plus if someone tries to target lock you, and it basically just says, okay, I rolled a 9. Yeah, you wasted your action and you don't target lock me. So I mean, it's kind of a long shot, but I have had it succeed. So
Interesting. Just sort of like a personal ECM kind of thing. It's not really ECM, obviously, but it's in that ballpark of abilities.
yeah,
right. Yeah,
cast
and you don't. Yeah, I
Go-
mean, I wouldn't build a force and like say, okay, I'm building. I've got to have this thing go off. I think it's more of a like, oh, cool, I remember it and I rolled it. Oh, I got it. Okay, awesome. Because
yeah.
when you're up there in the 8-9 band, like it's not a guarantee. When it does happen, it's cool, but I just wouldn't base my strategy around having that. It's nice to have, but it's not. It's not. I wouldn't say it's game changing. It's just can be an inconvenience for your opponent when it happens.
Yeah,
So
it would be a nice little I don't know, just a nice little win if you've got a Reaper or a Silverback bearing down on you, and for whatever reason, maybe there's smoke on the field. A myriad of different situations could be present, and they go, oh well, I'm going to target lock you, and then you roll it and you hit it, and it could maybe be game changing, but probably won't be.
Oh, so to me, I mean, going just a little further down that line of reasoning, I'm picturing a squad full of Reapers, right? Some sort of heavy guided missile guys who have an EST buddy, right? And so the EST buddy is going to be the one that comes up and target locks. So your opponent does all his declarations, says, "Okay, I'm going to move here and target lock that guy, and then we're all going to fire at that guy." And your countermeasures goes off and blocks the EST guy's target lock. That whole squad just wasted their entire action, didn't they?
This is true.
Am I reading that wrong? I mean,
Uh,
it's like go ahead.
yeah, no, that's how I understand it as well.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's like
I
winning
think
the
so.
lottery, but man, that's the $93 million lottery right there. If you cancel an entire squad's activation because they failed to target lock you with their EST, dude, win chicken dinner kind of thing. That's fantastic. At least I think so.
Yeah,
All right, so
But
so let's look at the
if
chat
you
real quick.
fail it and then you
Go
you
ahead.
eat those 16 guided missiles, then it's game over, man.
Well, at least for the guy that they targeted, yeah.
Yeah.
That one model's dead. All right, so let's look at the chat real quick. So Tiger Wraith made the comment that you can use a CP to attach a con to the Carl squad. So what he's talking about is a command point you can use in the game, and I think it's only for one activation or turn around or whatever the right word is, but you can attach a model with EST to the flight squad and let him do the target locking for them.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Only for
Sparks, go ahead. Go ahead, Ross.
Oh no, I've got nothing to add.
Oh, I'm
That
sorry.
sounds
I
correct. I believe
misunderstood.
that's correct.
Todd,
That's okay.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, I believe that is correct that you can spend the command point, but it only lasts for one turn.
Right. So then Sparks Murphy points out that there's a scout helicopter, which is an open recon rotorcraft, which has EST and tag, and it only costs
Armor 1
61.
or
It moves
2.
15, and it has APA 1. So I don't know what the right way to go with that is, but there's an aircraft. I mean, you could literally stick the open helicopter and a Carl in a flight squad, and then just take a second flight squad, I guess, if you're not hard capped
I
on
would go
squad numbers.
special. I would go special.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
have 3 Carls and the other dude.
That sounds even better. Leave it to
Well,
Ross
more
to,
missiles.
yeah, leave it to Ross to find the solution.
Oh, I'll be quiet now.
No. We love. No. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying. Hats off to you, Ross. It's your ballywick. It's
Sorry.
it's what you're
I may
fantastic
have
at.
thought about I may have thought about this before, but that's okay.
See, Ross is just constantly in there. Ross never skips calf day for his legs. You see the analogy there? He never skips leg day. He's always thinking about calf. He's always got a list in mind. At least that's my experience. All right. So, have we covered the Carl? Is there anything else you guys want to talk about in terms of the Carl? Observations, last minute things to
I
say?
mean, I when it was actually, oh man, I'm so sorry for the names. It's one of Hugh's buddies out there in Tennessee. On the my mind just died. I don't even know, guys. The Discord, and he had talked about the Carls, and I remember I've seen it before, and then that kind of sparked it as to why I brought it back up for this tonight. But I saw that and I was like, wow, that makes rock a little bit more playable. Because before, one of the issues is they had like the lowest model count. They had like no APA, and they had just some issues with getting forces to fit together. But man, when you can just have a little bit of that, basically I call it light artillery that can deal with some things that you don't deal with as well. Then man, cool. That's a pretty nifty little craft.
All right. So you mentioned the word light artillery, which I was going to lead us on to our next and probably our final topic for the night. Ross, you're in possession of some very rare resin, as I recall.
I
Something with
believe so.
swirly, whirly bird thingies. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Scout helicopter. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong helicopter. I'm sorry.
There's a helicopter.
Yeah, there is a helicopter. There's some blades involved. Yeah, as people have been paying attention, like the 4 or 5 of you. I mean, I can't see the chat. I can't see Twitch. Sorry. The few people that are paying attention know that I had Heinz in my force, and we talked about those last time we did this. And so in between now and then, John managed to get the file cleaned. Well, Chris got the file cleaned up, and John printed off 2 units for me and sent them down. And so I went through them. They were all still on the sprues, on the supports, and that was a booger. John, if you're listening, holy cow, you got them supported. I mean, those puppies weren't getting broke or nothing. It took a little bit of doing to get them off, but I managed. Cleaned them up, got the rotors cleaned up and assembled. That was probably the worst part. All 6 rotors were independent, which when you see how it's made, it makes sense. But it just took a little extra to make sure you get them all in place and stuff. But it's a beautiful model. It's just a big fat boy. We were laughing about the armor and stuff last time, but just it's like, how in the world do you deal with a flying tank? And yeah, and sure enough, it's just a nice, chunky little helicopter. And it looks nice with the force that is sitting here. I think I posted a picture on Discord and maybe Facebook showing the units. But yeah, it's sitting on one of the flight stands. It compares very favorably with the Lynx aircraft that I was proxying Thunderbolts for. And it's going to be a lot of fun to paint. I've been sad that I have not been able to paint it yet. It's just like we were talking about, real life got in the way. But I think it's going to look pretty killer in the orange and olive drab scheme.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I believe right now, unless John just went ahead and printed a whole bunch more for everybody else or for whatever, I think they're about the only ones in existence right now. And that's up to him. So I don't know. But I really want to get cracking at them and get some paint on them because they look really nice.
No, my understanding is you're the only one with those. Todd?
Okay.
What you got?
Oh, I was just going to say, Ross, correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned how it's a flying tank. I believe it's Armor 8, Movement 5, Medium MRAC 2, Light GMs?
No. It's Armor 9.
Armor 9. Excuse me.
Yeah, Speed 6, Armor 9, and then it's got like a medium MRAC and 2 light rocket pods.
Wow.
Oh, okay. That is really sick.
I want some of
I,
these
you
so
see,
bad.
it's I think Hugh brought up a good point last time, and I haven't played tested this at all. It's just you look at paper and you go, well, that doesn't look fun to play with or against, so we'll try that. Why not? It is slow. Like that's the one thing is like if you're gonna fly around claiming your trying to pop up or whatever, like you don't want to get shot, but at the same time, it's you do have to get where you're going. So it's like I think you have to kind of game and figure out where you're flying and whatever. It might require a little more chess when you're playing. I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be fun. And there's gonna be against certain lists. Like I hate to say it, but I think against if I was playing against James, I'd just be like, oh well, speed 12, let's go. We're gonna double move this turn and maybe next turn because he doesn't have much that can just
Nope.
swat them out of the sky. So
Whereas Todd's original list, you had pretty good anti-aircraft, as I recall, didn't you?
I did. Well, the original one I did. Nothing that could really deal with a hind. I think I had I originally had not an arbalest. What's the oh, it's the tank with the quad autocannon.
Shepherd.
Yeah, I originally had one. I actually have modded up one of those, just haven't painted yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other thing I had was a Gecko with 2 light guided missiles.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't really going to much against it or be much of a deterrent, to be honest.
Your silverback was what I was worried about, because if I race those speed 12, you're going to unload those heavy GMs, and those can deal with armor 9. I mean, so against you, I'd have to be careful about that silverback to make sure you didn't like vape one of them or severely damage one of them and make them even slower than they already are.
Yeah, this is true.
So that's something I've never really thought about. I mean, I've never seen on the table is an aircraft get stunned from a guided missile, right? Shocked? Is that the right word?
Suppressed.
Shocked.
Yeah, I've actually
shocked gives you suppressed. So.
Right. Okay. You pick up the suppressed token because you failed the shock test, right? And so now suddenly your aircraft has to kind of fly sideways a little bit, which they're capable of doing, but I've never actually seen one get suppressed. Interesting. All right. So you've got a couple of other models that are either very rare or medium rare.
One of a kind.
Yeah, one of a kind.
I also got 3 hounds to fill out my force. Y'all know about my love of hounds, dating back from pre-2019 CavCon. They're very effective at what they do, which is race around and spam APA2. They also happen to have EST, but the models themselves are really nice. They're just a tad bigger. I tell you about, I've got one in front. I got 2 of these in front of me. I've got the Hound and the Saber from the Templars, and so the Hound is just a little bit longer, about the same thickness, and if you include the turret for the Saber, they're about the same height. But basically, it's kind of like a futuristic Russian BMP-1 or 2. It's got a turret with machine guns on it, and then on the back, it's sensor arrays or whatever, and it's got wheels and stuff. They're really nice looking models. I think my plan is to try as hard as I can next week, depending on my schedule and what I've got to get stuff going, and is to get 1 hound painted, 1 hind, and then I've got one other model that there's been a couple other sightings in the wild. James, I know you have at least 1, maybe 2, and I know John has at least 1. But I also got a Kodiak. When I was list building, I was just more like, what the heck? I think, quote unquote, competitively, it's a lot of points to dump into 1 model, but it's a really nice looking model, and it's going to look really nice in the scheme I'm using, because it does have that off-centered gun and cockpit, which is going to highlight the break in the scheme, I think. So those are the 6 models that John sent me. Obviously, the hinds are quote unquote one of a kind, and I don't know if he's printed off any other hounds either, but I know there's some Kodiaks. But man, they're all really great models, and I mean, pretty much at this point, they are. As soon as Dualcast gets going, I mean, they're pretty high up on the list, because I believe they're ready to go. But I can't speak for John, so don't take that as me saying when it's coming. But I know for CavCon, it was announced that what are the 2 models coming out?
So we're going to, at CavCon, he's going to release the Kodiak, and the Mamba, I believe, is the other one, the Templar vehicle.
Recon tank,
yeah,
buggy,
tank.
Buggy,
buggy thing.
It's a soft buggy, yeah.
Right, but both of which are,
so I know.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Come on. Keep talking.
Yeah. I know that there's a lot of interest in the Kodiak. I've had several people message me about it. I've messaged a couple people about it. It's a cool looking cav. So yeah, I'll be ready to get yours.
Yeah, I think those things are going to sell like hotcakes. I know for sure I'm going to order a couple of more, at least. And I don't disregard that tank either. I love Templars. It's my original faction, and I think that little buggy looks fantastic. It
Oh
really
yeah,
really
yeah.
does. Todd, what about you? Are Heinz in your future? Kodiak's in your future? What are you looking forward to?
Uh, I might have to do a Alma thrill force with all all these goodies coming down the pipe for sure. Especially, like we talked about last time with being able to use Ritter models. So I'm not. I don't know. I guess I kind of break away, and I'm not 100% sold on the aesthetic of some of the Alma thrill stuff. But some of it is fantastic stats wise. So be silly not to.
No, I mean, obviously you paint what you like, but you're right. I think Almirathil has really got a gigantic shot in the arm in the last, I don't know, 6 months to a year or so, since John started putting models out for them, because they were pretty underrepresented not too long ago, right, Ross?
Oh, it was just you basically were playing. You were playing Ritter with a couple almost rolled things, like basic, yeah, tossed in for fun. Like even if you were willing to play with proxies, you were still basically playing Ritter with a couple choice almost roll units that kind of shored up some of Ritter's weaknesses, which was basically like my Capcom force. I had the Hound. I had a
Mhm.
bunch of them. Had three of them because Ritter didn't have access to a cheap APA2 unit. But then the rest of the force was pretty much Ritter. Oh, and then the concussion, who was a really great fire support leader, and then Bears, which are really great heavy fire support guys. And then
Mhm.
after that, you know, the Tiamat was there, and the saber teeth and the cougar. Is like, you look at the table and you're like, about more than half of your force is Ritter. Which faction are you playing again? Like, oh, I'm playing Ritter. I mean,
Yeah,
Alma Thrill. Yeah, I'm playing Alma Thrill. So,
almost. But things have changed recently. John has really been cranking out the Almirathil models. I think they all look fantastic. I love the Cobra, the
oh
King
yeah,
Cobra, the Kodiak. All that stuff looks, excuse me, really really good. Um,
yeah.
that brings us. We're nearing the end of the show. We got about 2 or 3 minutes left. I don't see any particular questions there in the chat. So what I want to do is just kind of summarize what's going on. I'm sure everybody here has heard it, but I'll say it again. So we have virtual CavCon coming up next week. I think it starts on Friday, runs the weekend. Lots of people streaming, painting calves that you probably haven't seen very often, or maybe even at all. Um, please do your best to support them, get in their channel, make them understand that painting calves is important to us. We want to encourage people to do that. Um, John's going to obviously be streaming stuff from the shop. We're going to play. We're going to see some calf ball. I'm sure you'll see some CAV games. Who knows what else John has in mind? Swag bags will be up for sale pretty soon. You'll be able to get the Kodiak and the Mamba. Gosh knows what else might be available. But this is a brilliant time of the year if you're a CAV fan. So definitely come out next week and support everything that John is trying to do. Make as much noise as you can in the community. Let people know what's going on. Let's pump up our game. All right, guys. Give you each a minute or so to say your piece, and then we're going to peace out here. Somebody, Todd, you're traveling. You got your bag packed. You ready to go?
Just bought my plane ticket this morning. So yeah, I will be flying out of Burbank next Thursday morning.
Cool. Excited to see you. It's been a long time, man.
It has been
2019.
too long.
Ross?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting ready for my COVID shot. I mean, I don't know. No.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's I am very disappointed that I could not be there for sure. It's I haven't really thrown dice. Well, I lied. I've been playing Star Wars miniatures, the old Wizards of the Coast game
Mhm.
from the mid 2000s with my son. I had a whole grocery sack full of it up in the attic, and I pulled that out, and we've been playing that. It's a D20 system. It's fairly simple rules, and he has had a blast. He's 6, so I think Cav and some of the other games I have are a little too advanced for him. But this one is pretty, it works pretty well. So I'll probably roll dice with him, but I'll miss being there to let you guys use me as target practice. So yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
turn that around. So yeah, I'm excited. I'll be up there early to help John get stuff set up middle of next week, and then I look forward to seeing all of you on the streams. I look forward to watching Wobble and Party Bear and Thunderhead Studios and anybody else who's painting calves. I'm super excited to get a chance to enjoy those people's art and hang out with John, see Todd, see Hugh, and roll some dice myself. It's been a while, and I'm like a thirsty man. I'm looking forward to that first drink. All right, well, everybody, that's it. We're going to sign off. Thanks for joining us. Support Cav. Be good to each other, and good night.